Okay, gaily. I'm gaily designing, in the sense of very happily designing games today. Um, 7:30 on a Sunday morning. Um, I this is something very different for me. Waking up pretty early in general. I was up at 6. I think I slept just after 11 last night, and so that's pretty good. um, Considering that I was sleeping at like 1 or 2 generally, um, before China, before my time outside Beijing this year, and so I came back with the intention to use my jet lag to adjust my sleep schedule because it just wasn't good. I knew that. Um, so anyway, in general, I've been sleeping much earlier than I used to. Um, Waking up because the deal with the jet lag was like I would sleep, I don't know, by 10 or 11 or something, and then wake up at 2 and then be awake completely, or 3. um, Anyway, so I've kind of stuck with it, and I think it's pretty much stabilized. It's kind of rough because you can imagine sometimes I want to stay up and hang out with people or play a game or do something like that, and so it's or I'll be prepping something, and maybe I'll sleep at midnight, but I'll still wake up at 5 or 5:30 or something like that, and so that's not cool. But um, for the most part, it's just been a um, really positive change, and yeah, I'm really hoping to stick with it. I'm just checking the other streams. Okay, so when I streamed on Friday morning, that was my first time multi-streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and it looks like all the streams are still healthy. Um, it's just awesome, like how just there was a much simpler system available than I thought, or than I knew about. So streaming off my phone has been good, especially since I upgraded. It's just another, I think it was less than $10 a month to basically double my speed. Um, and you know what? I guess this is upload speed, really, isn't it? So that works out. That has worked out very well. Um, but anyway, so streaming in the mornings has been really fun, and I'm excited to keep doing that. I don't know what's going to happen when the school year starts. I want to say public schools start. Well, I know it sounds like elementary schools. Maybe that's everybody. Let's see, Honolulu Public Schools calendar. So that means I'll be subbing again pretty soon, and I definitely will need to get out and sub. So teachers first, yeah, students first day. I didn't realize. Let me see if there are any jobs posted for subbing. I doubt it. I heard, actually, I got a call for Pearl City. I am a little closer to Pearl City, so it's a little more likely that I could go without too much trouble. Yeah, there aren't any postings for Mauna Lua yet. I'll be really close to Mauna Lua in general, so pretty stoked about that. Um, but I wanted to share a little bit about why I'm sunburned. Actually, it's not stinging too bad, but and maybe because of my shirt, you might think I'm just being, somehow the light is just reflecting on my face and neck or something like that. But it's not that apparent. Um, Yesterday, a few friends and I set up a booth for Nerds in the Park. This was, I want to say I think it's the first year that they've done this exact event. There was something similar before. I'm not too sure what it was called. I forget. But anyway, the concept is that you just set up, clubs and activity groups and different organizations just get together. This is on Magic Island in Ala Moana area. And just there's no sales or anything, but it's just connecting with people, doing some advertising. So we set up a booth for just to try to get more people plugged in with gaming on the island, particularly the retreats, because we've got the retreat coming up in early October. So anyway, it turned out to be really nice. It's like a beautiful day. Even the way that the day came together was really nice in that a couple of guys were there early in the actually no first thing. This was very cool. This is very cool. So you're aware that I've just moved into this apartment. I'm actually almost completely unpacked. I'm stalling out on a couple little things. I need to move some trash out in boxes and things, but I I was loading my car yesterday, and parking and moving stuff around is honestly, it's the biggest drawback so far of this place. So I've got to park on the other side of the little lane here, have my hazards on, and then I'm just ferrying stuff, and I'm on the back of the building, and that's across the lane. And so it's kind of like a decent amount of effort to move any real amount of stuff. So I'm going back and forth, and then I see my new the neighbor who is new to me. I met him. He was doing laundry when I checked out the apartment. His name is Nick. I saw him walking down the lane. I said, "Nick, right? That's your name, right?" And he's so we connected for a second there in the lane, and then I said, "Well, I'm doing Nerds in the Park. What are you up to?" He said, "I'm doing Nerds in the Park too." So he was walking out for the bus, and so he helped me load the last couple things in my car, and we drove down together. So that was really fun. Just a fun little connection. So, I feel like I'm kind of late to nerddom. I don't know that I'm a nerd or not, but I know I enjoy playing games. I enjoy doing some nerd related things, but I never really considered myself like a nerd proper. Okay. So, anyway, it's just been interesting, kind of diving into this world. I think some of this is my culture. Some of this is church background. And, I grew up, without much of a focus on, how to say that, kind of mainstream sort of pop culture type of things, which I value. Actually, I think it was actually, in general, a positive experience, growing up without needing too much exposure to that stuff. But what it does mean is I'm coming late to the party in terms of the movies, the cartoons, the just whatever cultural references people have. A lot of the reference I just didn't have exposure to. I do want to be absolutely clear. That's okay. In my mind, that's fine. But I have I've circled back and watched some of the stuff that a lot of my friends watched and had seen in high school that I hadn't seen and stuff like that. So I have some limited awareness of these cultural touch points, but I never really bought into a subculture like a lot of these people who think of themselves as nerds have. That's just not something I did. It's not the background I have. So, all these people that grew up with all the Star Wars stuff, or they're, big Pokemon or whatever little kind of subculture they have, I just don't know much about. So that's why I'm saying I feel like now I'm fairly new to nerddom, in the sense that people organize themselves around these cultural phenomena. So it's games for me, but they're games in general. It's not like a particular franchise, or I'm a this type of or I'm a fan of only people will go all in for Marvel stuff, merch and games and stuff. For me, I don't have I didn't grow up reading I didn't grow up reading comic books. So I don't really care which character I play. I'm not super drawn to It's got to be Spider-Man. It's got to be Superman. It's got to, like, I don't even know, like, I'm kind of late to like Marvel versus DC stuff. Like, I just don't care, and I am fine with not caring. But it's interesting to me to now walk into communities that really care, like they think they think it really matters, right? So I'm just like, cool, like let's hey, bring some games out, let's play some games, and then they're really passionate about like certain characters or certain settings or fantasy versus sci-fi. Like, I don't care. It's interesting that you do, but anyway. So Nerds in the Park is a little bit like, I want to kind of say it's sort of like a foreign culture to me. Um, so, but at the same time, I'm really buying in. I'm all in terms of games and game design, and it just like this kind of stuff, like this this cultural layer of like groups of people who identify with these pop culture things. Like, this is just part of the program. So I went yesterday. We set up this booth, and for me, it's just like, hey, games, table games, board games, and for a lot of other people, it was their specific. Oh, like we were not too far from There's like some volunteer Star Wars groups that show up in costume. Actually, we saw them when Eddie and Jayla and Kenna and Anosi and Tim and a bunch of us went to like a viewing of, I think it was Return of the Jedi. And there was live music, like the orchestra was playing. We went out during the intermission for photos with like a lot of these costumed individuals, and I guess a bunch of them were there at the park yesterday. Okay, so the idea was, again, just connecting with people about games, trying to get them plugged into some of the gaming we're doing, and the board game retreat that's coming up in October. And like, wind was a factor, kept knocking over our big games and stuff, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, it was just like a beautiful day. It wasn't very busy. We had people kind of wandering through, and like you see here in the photo, people playing this Connect 4 here. Just some kids that got curious about the big blocks on the ground or whatever. They'd just come over and play for a little while, and they'd set up there was this like Tetris game, Tetris Tumble or something like that. And so they're playing, rolling the dice, setting up the blocks on the thing, and then the wind would just come by and blow it down and stuff. But it was still cool, like, handing out a few flyers. I did get some people to sit down over here at the table. Like, there was a mom with some teens that came through and taught them Strike, or I had some familiar faces from the retreats. The Brizzies came by, and Doug came by, and we played Magic Maze. So that was a really fun little few moments together. So it was just a casual time. Time really flew, to be honest. It was cool to go check out some of the other booths. There was really random stuff. Like, there was something about this group that like works in the ocean, kind of a conservation sort of group that gets funding from somewhere. It's like a UH thing called Sea Grant. There was somebody there representing, I think, like an animal rescue thing, and they had like samples of vegan burritos. I don't know what sort of nerd that is, but like, that's cool. There was a Rubik's Cube group. There was the Star Wars people. There was a Ludo Sport thing where they were kind of doing demos, like with lightsaber, like fun, like, yeah, just like lightsaber style weapons. So they had their little area marked off, and they were doing little shows and stuff. Somebody was giving away plants. There was some lady there like helping to address back pain. Like, it was very, 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 very eclectic, and just had a great time going around chatting with people. But it was just awesome that I had these two guys, Jim and Brandon, came out to help me set up, and very sweet people there too. Deanna was the friend of one of the organizer Albert, and she let us borrow a wagon and stuff. It's like details like that I just didn't think of. I had a little cart, but that wasn't going to work in the grass, so we just got the wagon and we're just setting stuff up, and the wind was dealing damage, and anyway, it was just a fun time. And then it was great that later on, um, Jack and Tyler came by, and Jack hung out, watched the booth while I went around and handed out some more flyers and stuff. Tyler hung out for a little while. It was funny because he was kind of complaining that there really wasn't much to do. And to be honest, there really wasn't. Like, a lot of it was, here's our booth, this is what we do, here's a business card, here's a flyer, this is what we can do for you. So there weren't too many like activities. It wasn't they had music, they had DJs that were just kind of to be honest, I'm grateful we set up on the other side of the circle. It was just this circle of tents and booths. Really fun music, but wow, I'm glad I wasn't sitting right next to them. But anyways, Tyler was talking through like what this could have been. They could have been announcing like giveaways and oh, go check out the Lego booth. They're going to be having a contest here in a couple minutes, and so I think their emceeing could have really added more of a sense of like this is an event with like cool and engaging things to do. Anyway, no great reason to complain, but the point was Tyler was there. Great to see him. We the three of us, me, Jack, and Tyler, played King Domino together, and then they helped me break down, and it was so good to have help, right? That's the main thing. Like, this is a really cool community. People actually show up, people actually help out, they're interested in participating and being a part of what we're doing. So I was just really encouraged by that. Really had a great time. My skin unfortunately did not have a great time. I don't feel it, so it's not an extreme burn. I did have sunscreen on, I know that. Maybe I didn't reapply. Okay, anyway, that's Nerds in the Park. I believe it's becoming an annual thing, so we'll look out for that next year. Just a really pleasant Saturday morning and early afternoon. So, yeah, really enjoyed that. But for today's focus, we have a game design meetup coming up this afternoon. It's one of those things that because I was distracted by big things like moving, I didn't really announce it. I know we have a calendar for these events, and so thankfully, even I announced it kind of late. I think I only mentioned it on Friday. It sounds like we'll have like a decent group, but what's a decent group? It might be like somewhere between 6 and 10 people. I met another guy yesterday at Armchair who's really into RPGs, and oh, I need to make sure that this guy gets in. That was him, actually. So met a guy who's excited about designing an RPG, and everything. It's interesting to try to figure out how to frame this kind of description. My impression of this very thoughtful, very creative young man. There's something to be said for the enthusiasm that people feel when they're building something from scratch, when they're creating something, when they're remixing something. So in general, that baseline of enthusiasm is really important, and Jared has it. Also, when I met him, I guess he'd been coming to Armchair a couple times. My friend Phil had told him about our meetups, told him that I'm interested in design. Unfortunately, there's not I don't perceive a great deal of overlap between tabletop gaming, card games, board games, dice games, that kind of thing, and RPGs. There certainly is overlap, but I don't feel it. I don't see it. I think RPGs tend to handle randomness in ways that I don't enjoy, or they bring in randomness at times that I'm not a super big fan of. And it could be that I just haven't bought into that world, the D&D world, or whatever settings people are excited about, and I really don't enjoy skill checks. I don't enjoy the idea of like, here's this thing, you attempt it, now you roll and see how well you did. For some reason, that's not interesting to me, and I think it could be. I think there could be, there could be moments, there could be DMs, there could be play groups that really allow what I consider to be kind of uninteresting mechanics, that allow them to shine, but I don't see it. So anyway, I'm not interested in designing RPGs either. I think storytelling is a really powerful, um, and obviously engaging form. So I think it's great. I think it's important that people are working on these things, but it's just not there. I'm more interested in the efficiency puzzles or the interactions and the systems in board games. Anyway, I spoke with this guy for a few minutes yesterday. He may be coming today, um, but when I met him, he was looking through a book. I think GURP. I think it was a new term to me. Universal role playing systems. There are these systems that try to allow for any type of setting or any type of interaction or something like that. So, but anyway, what I was encouraged by is that he's in a research phase. So, I I don't consider myself a new designer anymore, just because now this is like year 3 for me, and it's year 3 not only of just like actively designing games, but of actually participating in the design community. So being very active in Facebook groups, doing meetups and things like that. So I've been around a range of experience, a range of people with experience. Is that right? So something like, the people who've been published a whole bunch, people who are just starting, this is their first design. So I've seen a lot of that spectrum, and there are patterns that emerge. One of them is like I'm trying to describe here in a kind of long-winded way. It's that enthusiasm strikes. And I remember the first time I was working on a game. This was the hiking game that I've shelved. I've pitched a couple times. I think it works. I think it'd be a fun. It's a card game now. It went through all kinds of iterations over a year for sure, and every now and then I revisit it. But I had that enthusiasm of thinking, these are great ideas, um, and possibly mistakenly thinking that these are new ideas. Nobody's done this before, or yeah, because I haven't seen it, it must not exist. Stuff like that. I don't want to project that same kind of thinking on Jared. However, um, I can see he's done a lot of work on his project. It's great. No problem with doing a lot of work on your project. But now that I think I've been, active for a while doing this kind of stuff, I really see, number one, the importance of playing tons of games. Playing, playing, playing. So getting actual experiential exposure to a variety of mechanisms, a variety of ideas. And I think that needs to be a recommendation. I saw a discussion on Facebook, one of the big groups I'm in, where, actually, let me go away from here. I saw this discussion about, like, almost something like who would outperform the other, the person who plays tons of games or the person who has like an almost academic and research type approach to games. So they don't experience games, but they haven't experienced a lot of games, but they've studied games. Who would outperform the other? And I think there's a kind of there'd be a kind of interesting curve and an intersection where one approach would like level out and the other would probably keep going. Like one would have an advantage at first in well, designing what? So designing something that demonstrates some innovation, something that is in line with, let's say, the tastes of modern hobby gamers. So I would say at first, the one who plays a lot of games has the advantage. They're the ones who who have felt and seen how other designers solve certain types of problems. they've seen it, they've gone through it. You can notice that, you can study it, but like until you see people processing a game at the table in a way that you don't, I think until you do that, until you spend time doing that, I don't think you're super likely to come up with anything very interesting. That I'm sure there are outliers, but so there are the people that play. But at some point, you can play and play and play, but it doesn't. It at some yeah, I think there's a plateau, partly because now you've been exposed to so many ideas. You might even start forgetting. You might start forgetting some solutions to certain types of puzzles, but eventually you realize you don't have to play a game to understand the game, to understand what's going on in the game. So that's where study kind of takes off. That's where you can start watching reviews. You can start scanning rule books. You can start, um, yeah, you can just kind of have a playthrough going on in the background or something and kind of catch some of the main ideas in the game. That's the thing. What are the main ideas in the game? So that's at that point where I think study is way more efficient. So once you kind of have the language sorted out, once you get a sense of the general landscape, you don't need to play as much. I think so. Um, anyway, so working with somebody like Jared, like he's got to play. I think at the start, um, I think he hasn't played games at the table. And by the way, I don't mean this to be a criticism. I'm just thinking through my interactions with him and new designers in general, people who are working on their first project. I yeah, I really want to find ways to really encourage them without dampening their enthusiasm, their energy, their momentum. At the same time, and this is the kind of the balance of it. At the same time, it seems useful to have a new designer figure out how to situate the project they're working on within this bigger context of trends, of the actual publication process, of the flow and the dynamics of new games being announced, of getting into retail, like just some more, there's like life beyond the game itself. Like, what's the marketing going to be like? What is the appeal here? So even though we have these cool ideas, how viable are they in the market? And that's one reason I've spent more time on games like South Shore Vibes, like Sugar Shack. It's partly because I think games are a really cool vehicle to share ideas, to share values, but also because I would like to build a sustainable income, various streams of sustainable of income that allow me to do this kind of thing, that allow me to keep designing, keep showing up at different events and talking about games, teaching games, hosting, groups that just want to enjoy each other's company over games. Like I sense that I would be very comfortable, happy, and productive building culture around games. Who saw that coming? Not me. Definitely not me. But anyway, yeah. The point is, it's understanding that not every designer has these goals in mind. But if they do, if they're trying to, if they're trying to make something that they view as legitimate, as marketable, then it's really important to give some of that feedback early and say, like, great, thanks for your cool ideas, but yeah, let's work on identifying your audience. Let's work on thinking about viability and whether or not there's anything interesting or innovative in this game of yours. I assume that I assume this is definitely an assumption at the start. I assume that the first design is not going to be interesting or innovative, or at least the first few iterations of the first design. Absolutely, there are exceptions and outliers, but I think it's fair to assume for most people, most of the time, that their first design is not going to be that interesting, not going to be that fun. And it's almost like the first time learning anything, or as a kid, the overconfidence you have that you understand something, that you know something. I think you have to go through, I think you have to go through thinking your idea is amazing. I think that's where the energy and the motivation comes from. But then it's then in moving on from that first design where you start to see, okay, yeah, there was some cool, like that might work. It could be interesting, but that was more just about getting experience. It was more about feeling the process. So anyway, stoked for our design meetup this afternoon. I am. Oh, it's not 8:2, is it? It's 8:3. Let me change that right now. I thought for sure that that was something I had updated here. Bummer. Okay. Well, okay, I'm going to jump into catching up on South Shore Vibes changes. Um, yeah, so this is the last thing I tested on the previous meetup, I believe. So I just want to make sure I have something that's ready, just in case we have a few people there who are interested in, or just in case we have some time. So South Shore Vibes. Okay, so no, I don't have my notes here. I might have written them down in Keep. And then what I'm going to do is go into Canva and see if there are some changes I need to introduce to I know there were some suggestions. I know there was feedback, so that's what I'm going to check right now. Like, what's the status? South Shore Vibes, is this the one? I don't think I updated that, so this is good. Oh no, these were skill points if you wipe out, stack limit. This is okay. This was stuff from. Oh no. Oh no. Where did I put notes? What? No. Um. Almost guaranteed. I wrote some stuff down. Hmm. Oh wait, no. Okay, so those were the notes from this last time. Yeah, it would help to be organized around taking notes. So these are the notes from last time. Right, right. Okay, so I'm gonna move these into Discord. So notes from what week was that? That would have been, it's wild, right? It's August. So this would have been 7/20. Notes from 7/20. So I'm just going to drop these in. And then work, yeah, go from here. So here was something interesting. So there's like the multiplayer version of the game. That's what I'm working on now. Multiplayer version. The solo version is what I have in the contest. And that is what is, where is that? So yeah, here's the multiplayer. These are the player boards. Okay. And then these are the player board. Oh no. These are the player boards, and then there's some really interesting stuff, like confusion about the fish, and some of it is just the teach. Some of it was just like I was not clear. I think it is kind of confusing that you have to commit a die to that activity area, and then it just take 5 dice and use them. But when you use the 5 dice for the Yahtzee style game itself, you don't commit the dice there, you don't lose them. All you need is 5 dice available and you play the mini game. But for some reason that was confusing. And I mean, it kind of makes sense that it's confusing because it, like, your dice pool in general doesn't matter at that time. The thing that you think is your group of dice to use, so on one hand you're burning a die, you're wasting a die, you're committing a die when you play a minigame, and you're not going to get that die back. But then you just need to have 5 of your dice. Doesn't matter anything. There's no thing that's important about those dice other than that they are 5 dice. You're not going to lose them. Also, catching fish, that you have to commit dice to fish, like a certain fish, and that you can't reassign dice. So maybe actually you should be able to. What if you got to fish more than once? Like, no. What if you got to, let's say, roll 1? If you got a fish, you could just. Well, no. No, see, I think it's actually more confusing if you could, let's say, catch a 3 dice fish, and then I'd have to explain that, well, now because you caught a fish, those dice, they must be re-rolled, right? So like, which ones have to be re-rolled after, if you're allowed to catch fish with your 3 re-rolls, if you can re-catch fish. So I'm sure that's confusing, but it's the idea of rolling 5 dice, matching a 3 dice fish. So it'd be like this fish right here, matching this fish. So you could dedicate those 3 dice to this fish, and then like bang, like get your 3 money right away. Or you could re-roll to try to catch this fish. So maybe you want to leave the 3 dice as they are, just in case. Yeah, I don't know. This is already, it's too much to describe. I think it's ultimately easier, simpler, if the person just they can roll until they are satisfied with the fish they caught, and then that's it. Like, you can't catch more than 1 fish with the same dice. I think that's easier to explain than the thing I was trying to describe just now. So anyway, I remember there was a little confusion around fishing, and I think I needed to make these a little bit these lines, I needed to make them a little bit heavier so that you could really tell the difference between yeah. So you could really tell the difference between them. That it makes it was clearer that it was clear that these, is this a transparency thing? Yes. It was clear that these are like separate pools of fish. So I think that, yeah, that's important. What else? Was there anything? Okay. So in the solo game, I kind of wanted to make sure to punish people. Punish sounds bad, but to have a negative consequence for a player who fell off the wave late. Okay. So in that case, they're losing 8 points, but they're gaining 4 shakas if they fall off late. Okay, but the feedback in the multiplayer game, why do I have 2? Why do I have 2 of these? Oh, I did make a. Oh, you know what? I did make these changes. I made them already. That's good news. So I added the neutral dice. I added like a player aid essentially. Stack limit 3. What else? No, okay, so I had this stuff already. But this I reversed. So this must be the original sheet. I think adding the list was helpful here. Gain 1 stamina, exhaust dice, reserve personal pool, create community pool. Oh, this was the idea. This was the solution. Was that you get to save 1 die per tier. The rest of them get rolled. Okay, roll all dice in personal, community, and exhausted pools. Exhaust neutral dice after use. Roll at start of a wave. Refresh any die in this pool at any time. Okay. So this is good news, first of all, that I did this work. That's funny, I totally forgot. But now I just need to print some out. Okay, so that's great. Using exhausted pool, sharing a space, pay to stack on top of another player. This I don't really like this because I think the stacking gets crazy. I just had an idea that could be really confusing. So how could you stack? I think I need to add a little comment here. 1 skill per wave earned even if fallen off the wave. I think that's nice, right? That's a little more generous than it could be. 1 skill per wave earned even if fallen off the wave. Like that's just kind of a, here you go, everybody. Yeah, it kind of hurts that you fell, but Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm curious how this refreshing is going to go. I think I want this to be a little more visible now because this seems pretty important. Okay, roll at start of a wave. Refresh any die in this pool at any time. During a wave. Yeah, right. That's fine. Okay, that's actually really interesting. Um, okay. Lowest VP, then fewest shakas. Okay. Oh, first wave though. First wave, I had the players roll off rather than check. I mean, they don't have VP or any difference in VP. They might have difference in shakas, but they're not likely to. Oh, well, yes, they are actually. Because now, if they know that the first wave placement is related to shakas, then they might be tempted to use more shakas during the first set of mini games. That's okay. Okay, there's something to that. There's something to that. Um, there is something to that. Okay. I like that. I actually like that a lot. So who has the fewest shakas? Let me move this over here like this. Hmm. Hmm. So one more, I think probably the main puzzle of this game, of this design right now. The main puzzle I want to solve is what about people who want to share the space, share the same space, as in the worker placement. The worker placement still needs to matter. It still needs to sting if you have to share space with somebody. Um, it should probably be related to shakas. The question is it something like, do you just have to pay shakas? Do you give shakas to somebody else? Not too sure. Um, hmm, yeah. It's interesting that it looks like Twitch has the lowest latency. I'm a little surprised by that. Um, okay. So how can people share a wave? Share placement on a wave. There needs to be one more of these. How do I add this? Then this will be a roll off, basically. Roll off. Yeah, okay. That's good. We'll just centralize this. So what if people want to share the wave? That's the question. I wonder if OBS has dropped any frames. 0% dropped frames. Let's go. Let's go phone hotspot. Let's go OBS. Let's go whatever kind of laptop this is. I'm stoked about that. That's exciting. Okay. Now, sharing placement on a wave. See, here's one issue is that the stack. A stack of 3 might be too many. Oh, what if it was 2? What if the stack limit was 2? Okay, I think what it could be, I don't love this, but this is a possible solution. So if the stack limit was 2 dice, if this no. Okay, this could be crazy. Okay. Okay, this is probably not a good idea, but it is an idea. So stack limit 2. Okay. And then sharing a space. Sharing a space. To share space, pay 3 shakas. Why 3? Not too sure. This is what feels right now. Match top die value. Should we give 3 shakas? Give 3? It might be give 3. Oh, I like this. Oh, interesting. I think this could be cool. Share space. Give 3 shakas. Match top die value. So there's a lot. There is a lot of text on this sheet. But for me, this is cool. Like, this is kind of exciting. because it allows for the flexibility that players want, but it's costly. So yeah, but it's costly. It's costly, but it works. So it makes the game harder because the stack limit being 2 dice, it just means you need more specific dice. The reason I wouldn't want to do a stack limit of 3 is that I think a stack of 4 dice is crazy. I think if you bump the table, 3 dice is a little easier to recover than 4. That's just my feeling. That's like kind of my guess. That's my guess. So, I'm gonna just comment. Doug. I don't think I have Doug's. Oh, Carolyn came yesterday too. Yeah, so Ivy, Nick, and Doug stopped by. We actually played. Ivy and Nick and Ivy's daughter. The 4 of us. Did I say 4? 3 of them and 1 of me. That's 4 people. We played. That's who we played Magic Maze with yesterday, and it was a really nice time. The other familiar face was Carolyn. Carolyn came with a friend Sam, and we had fun chatting a little bit with those two. So yeah, it was just like a super nice time. You know what? I'm really glad I did some of this work. So at this point now, it's just kind of some polishing. I'm glad I updated this sheet based on the feedback. It must have been like 2 weeks ago because I totally forgot that I did it. But there were these kind of last little issues to deal with that I'm pretty excited about. Again, I don't really like that there's all this text all over the place. Yeah, I don't like this, but I don't think it can be really helped at this point. And it's not super obtrusive. It's just kind of there. But it is, yeah, it's almost like kind of like minor player aid stuff, like a small player aid. But it's cluttered. That's the issue. Is it's cluttered. Oh, this is so big. There's not really a shape that I can give this. Because I need to with one die, right? Because then they might think there's a stack limit of 2 for sharing a space, and that wouldn't be good. Okay. By the way, if you want to try this game out, it is available for print and play for the solo mode. I think it works pretty well with the solo mode. That's with Uncle Wallace and Kenna surfing alongside you. You're surfing with them. I actually like the idea now that you could probably stack on top of those guys, but you gotta pay shakas. You've gotta pay. You can't give them shakas, but in the solo game, you can definitely pay. I like the idea of giving somebody shakas because then what you're doing is you're risking giving them the resources they need to get like a good position. So I think that's kind of a fun problem. You're giving them one free dice placement. Maybe that's too much. That's probably too much. Yeah, I'd say that's too much. I don't know. It's gotta be worth it. Giving them a free dice placement. I'm gonna try this. I mean, the great thing about playtesting is these values are completely plastic. I wonder if kind of like the idea of doing something different design-wise with with the way that the rounds show up here. Like, I think I might try this. Right? Something like this could be nice. Boom. That's kind of cute, right? And then what I was thinking is that now this can be white. Not that. This can be gray, black, gray, but this could be white. That was what I was thinking. Yeah, I like that. Just kind of get it out of the way, make it a little smaller. Because it's got to be noticeable, but it doesn't have to be like super in your face, right? Right. I don't really like that there's that possible little gap. Same thing here. Okay, I think this is gonna do it for me. So yeah, thanks for joining. Excited about today's. Ooh, that doesn't actually look that cool. Why does that not look that cool? I think it's because of the. I think it's because of these bars up here. Are those necessary? Probably not, actually. I think I'm just gonna take them out. And now I want to lengthen these. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, yeah, that's it for today's daily game dev session. Thanks for joining. I'll see you soon.